Well, we want to have this conversation, and to help us better understand this conversation, we have with us Fred Abok in studio this morning. He is a mentor, he's a motivational speaker, as well as a counseling psychologist. Good morning, Abok.
Good morning.
Good to have you back.
Thank you so much, Jain.
Thank you for making time to be with us this morning.
Thank you.
And I want to start with a very personal opinion as a parent before we get to the professional side of things.
Yeah.
Examining yourself as a parent, do you feel in one way or the other, and collectively speaking for even other parents, that we have a role to play in all this wave of unrest that we are seeing?
Definitely, Jain, because, you know, home is the first institution where we model character and personal understanding. And so it is of a great importance to understand that parents has a great role to play, because that is where the children begin to model their behavioral system and getting on to understand their ability to be accepted regardless of who they are. And so it's of essence to, you know, for parents to, you know, up our game in building the confidence that our children requires. Because, you know, Jain, you would agree with me that confidence has actually been now put on performance. And so, you know, there's an element of people trying on to achieve something so that they're being recognized. But you know what? Home is home. Whoever you are, and, you know, children are supposed to be loved equally. But of course, the ability to love children equally, especially also parents, whenever things are actually not going on right, it takes an element of grace to, you know, understand that my child is number last in class, and I still got to accept them the way they are, and, you know, appreciate them and recognize them and motivate them, that they can be able to bring out the best. But of course, also allow me to mention that when it comes to life, education is not life and death. You know, you can be educated. It plays a very integral part of our life. But of course, you should not look at it as if you don't do it, then you stop living. There are other things that matters to life more than education.
All right. So in essence, from what I'm getting from what you're saying, and you know, what you started with saying is that as parents, we have cultured our children to know that our love is conditional, as opposed to how we say it is unconditional. You know, consequently, if you do this, then I will express love to you. If you don't do this, then I sort of hold it back.
Probably right, because you know, basically the formula of life has actually put us to believe that parenting is a responsibility that is for a period of time, and you're actually geared on towards a certain kind of expectation. And these expectations are measured up based on the performance. And so parents, every other parent, you know, wherever, take for example, when a graduation is taking place, and let's say that you are invited for a graduation, and your own child did not make it to campus, you feel like, oh, come on, there is something that I did not do right. And so those who are actually inviting you are inviting you the perception that, you know what, look at us, we have made it, and come and join us, you who has not made it. And so parents are actually stereotype the element of parenting to an extent that they're looking at, you know, they are more or less what I can call clearing and forwarding. You know,
you're clearing and forwarding your children.
Yes, a procedure. So a lot of things are conditional. You know, do this and I do this. You know, like, you know what? Let's say you're breeding an animal that you want to take on the market. So you're feeding them based on the price. You're looking on at that, and you know, it's a very detrimental kind of a culture that actually you're creating on in parenting on today, because a lot of factors are not put in place because our mindset are narrowed into what we want to achieve.
All right. All right, let's now get to some of those details and just trying to understand the aspects that experts have put out that try to explain the parental responsibility in all this. And let's just start with routine. Now, when kids were in school, there was a routine of operating. Then they went home for almost 10 months. And during this time, experts are coming out to say that there wasn't any form of routine, so children were led to just be and do whatever they want. Then going back to school, you have to stick to a routine. Looking at parents and failing to have a routine for their children, could this be a valid reason for this wave of unrest that we are seeing?
Nothing further from the truth. Because, Jain, it's important to understand that parenting is more than just giving birth, but it's about actually having a systematic pattern of bringing up a child, because you know what, most of the attitudes and characters are run from home.
Yes.
And you know, to be able to create a positive attitude, there must be a systematic routine that children begin to adhere to, so that they begin to adapt into a character formation. Now, when this is not adhered to, definitely it's become a recipe for discord. Now, parents are busy with trying to make up the living, making up life. And of course, you find that during the coronavirus, there are children who are sleeping up to midday. And you know, the parents don't question because they say they're so tired. Now, an idle mind is definitely a devil's workshop.
Yes.
And so in every other time that we have actually avoided a routine, we are giving the devil an opportunity to have a playing field on our children. And so they are stereotyped to believe that home is better than school.
Yes.
And you know, in most cases, there are always no institution that has no regulations. And so since institution must have regulations, so when the institution adheres onto regulations, they begin to have homesick. They're not having homesick because home is more positive. It's because home is a distorted place whereby, you know, there is nothing to adhere to, there is nothing to, you know, condition them to be able to walk in a certain manner. So parents has a responsibility to play in that, apart from looking for provision for their children, they need to put in place regulations and systems that make children develop character. And let me finish on this.
Yes.
That success without discipline is a failure in itself. And discipline only is formalized by a routine system that can actually be able to formulate, to make it work.
There's actually Sonny on Twitter who's saying, when kids were at home, they were like free-range chicken. Free-range chicken ni kuku za kienyeji. They are left to fend for themselves. They do their own thing. They are not in a controlled environment. So in essence, this is what was replicated in the home space. Now, let's get to move on to another aspect and look at something that has been subject of so much controversy in the recent past, and this is issues to do with corporal punishments. Experts are also coming out to say that the lack of corporal punishment from the home space by parents has also contributed to this wave of, you know, unrest and indiscipline in most of our schools. Do you agree with that finding?
To some extent, and some extent, no. Because, Jain, you remember the days we were removing corporal punishment from the school. It is the same experts who are saying that corporal punishment cannot actually work to be able to transform.
Yes.
From my professionalism as a counselor, I stand to disagree with that, because I believe that transformation does not necessarily come by force. It comes by bringing on an understanding that someone is in a position to make a decision that affects their future, but also their present life.
Yes.
Now, love changes an individual. You know, why? It is important to understand why are people behaving the way they are behaving. Because everyone is seeking on for an attention. And this attention is actually for a purpose of being relevant. Three things that affect young people on today.
Yes.
Significance, security, and purpose. You know, they want to discover their purpose in life. They want to discover, be secured, and they want to discover their significance. Now, these things must actually be understood in the content that they have to be worked on. And you know, it is not about what you do that defines who you are, but it's about who you are that defines how you behave. You know, you attract. It's garbage in, garbage out. You know, whatever you attract is what you give out. So when we get to talk to our children in a positive manner, when we get to adhere to positive character and you know, repeat it on, they get to adapt onto that. And I've always said in this show, people who work in the bank, they are actually not taught how fake money looks like, but they get always exposed to real money until when they see a fake one, they say this one is not real. They know. Can we always tend to expose our children, you know, into the positivity until when they are exposed to anything negative, they say this is not part of us.
All right. Remember, we're having this conversation revolving around this wave of unrest that we have been seeing in our schools. And key to note is that this waves of delinquency has been happening mostly in boys' schools. Could there be a reason as to why our boys are unsettled as opposed to our girls? We welcome you to share with us your thoughts using the hashtag #GoodMorningKenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. At Jain Wambui is how you can be able to find me across the socials. I will be sampling your views in not too long. And helping me with this discussion, we already know we have a Fred Abok. He's a motivational speaker, a mentor, as well as a counseling psychologist. And also joining us right now to continue with this discussion, we have with us Joyce Macharia. She is the Director of Career Services at Chuka University. Good morning, Joyce.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for making time to be with us this morning.
Thank you too for having me.
All right. Now, I'd like to just start. We started this discussion earlier on with Abok, and he just wanted to. I got his personal opinion as a parent in regards to this wave of unrest, and we'd also like to just hear from you. Do you think that parents have a role to play with this wave of unrest that we are seeing with our students?
Yes, I think the parents have a role.
Yeah.
And all of us actually have a role in this. As much as parents have a role to be able to guide, to be able to correct their children, to be able to explain to them generally what life is all about.
Yes.
Because yes, we have the home life, where probably there were no rules and so on, but there is the school life where they need to adhere to the rules, and also to understand that the rules in the schools are not supposed to mistreat the students. Actually, the rules are supposed to protect the students.
Yeah.
If the students in school and in any other organization that has rules here and there, if everyone got to understand that the rules have been set to be able to protect them and not to oppress them, then it would be easier for the children to be able to obey the rules in the schools. Because if you look at it, if we have a school without rules, then that basically means even the students themselves are exposed.
Yeah.
Are exposed to danger, they are exposed to all those things that may not be good for them. So yes, parents have a role. But what I normally say is that sometimes we want to blame the parents so much, but there are other things that play also they also play a role.
Okay.
Things like you know, social media, a lot of violence through music,
yes,
violence through, you know, whatever is communicated, movies and so on. Then we also have music propelling or encouraging use of drugs, you know, and they listen to this music, they listen, they enjoy. Recently we saw a boy that killed all his family members, and he said he followed a movie, and it showed him how to go about killing the parents. So there is social media, there is also peer pressure, because sometimes when students are together, there is that mob psychology. There is that mob psychology where one does not take individual responsibility, and therefore they may end up doing some of these things that when they are alone, they may not be able to do some of those things.
All right.
So we also have
just jump in right there.
Yes.
Before we get to some of those issues. Let me just take you back a bit. You know, you had mentioned issues to do with rules and regulations,
yes,
and their importance in the school space.
Yes.
So do you feel the fact that at home we don't have a structured way of having rules and regulations, and even issues to do with forms of disciplines, because experts are now also saying that, you know, the lack of corporal punishments in the household space has also contributed to this. No forms of punishment, no rules and no regulations from the home space is now translating to this.
Yeah, of course we have homes where there are no rules, totally. Yeah. We have homes where there are no rules in such a way that a child wakes up at midday or whatever time of the day, they don't help even in house chores, they don't do anything, they spend their time, you know, in social media, and sometimes they don't even sleep early, they sleep even past midnight. So that kind of laxity at home where the children are left to do what they desire,
yes,
gives them a challenge for them to be able to sit in school, in class, with those rules and being restricted. It actually gives them pressure. Okay. So they end up having pressure to be able to cope with the school system as opposed to home, because home, it is free. Okay. They act out. They are able to act out. They are able now to see we can't stand this pressure. It was relaxed at home, now here, these are. So yes, I think parents, they need to have some kind of rules even at home. What time do they sleep? What time do they wake up? Are there chores that they need to help with at home, and so on? That one will also help them when they go to school. They are able to manage themselves in a school setup because of the rules.
Now, let me bring in another aspect that still is sort of on the other extreme end of this particular spectrum of rules and regulations, and this is issues to do with overprotective parents. Now, I was going through a piece that was talking about how parents are shielding their children from all these hardships in life, and they could be as simple as just learning how to do the dishes or washing clothes. They are being overly protective, and more so during this COVID time that they were at home. And as a result, now that they're brought back to school, you have to do this at a specific time, do this at a specific time. Children are now bearing the consequences of being overly protected in their home space. Abok, do you think this is something that could actually holds water and is contributing to this whole issues to do with unrest in our schools?
Nothing for the truth, Jain. Especially the 21st century parents are very overprotective.
Kababana kabama.
Where we are here, we are actually not out of the mix.
Yes.
Because there is an element of feeling that, you know, what we went through, our children should not go through it.
Yes.
But you discover that some of the things that we went through are what has actually been able to make us. Life is about discovery. And discovery is about, you know, trying on something that is beyond you.
Yes.
Every other time, life will always push you to think out of the box, to do something beyond your means and capability. I've always challenged people that 90% of the workforce today are not necessarily what you studied in school. It is something that life patterns you to begin to activate it. And so if you are actually not able to move out of the box and begin to rediscover, create a discovery element in yourself, you can actually not be able to make it in life. And so when parents are overprotective over their children, they deny them the opportunity to learn something that could actually be able to make them to adventure in life more. Now, the institution gives the children, the young people, an opportunity to discover themselves, because, you know, most of the things, and one of the reasons, actually, I was studying about the reason for unrest is being given responsibilities. Now, every responsibility that a child is given in an institution are always geared either to make them adopt into a lifestyle or into a pattern that can help them to be able to make their future. For example, if you're told to go and dig a shamba somewhere, it is not, if you look at it as a punishment, it's up to you. But if you look at it as an opportunity to understand how to do agriculture, then you actually be able to learn out of it. But everything that you're actually supposed to do is actually meant to make you learn something new.
All right. I'd also like to get your opinion in regards to this particular aspect about parents being overly protective, and as a result, when our kids get to interact with the real world, they tend to act out. Do you think that could be a reason as to why we're also seeing this unrest?
That could partly be the reason why we have this unrest, because yes, parents are protective. And just like my colleague has said, is that the parents, our age, the parents nowadays, they don't want their children to go through what they went through. Because most of us went through hardship, you know, stress, you know, walking without sometimes shoes and so on, without necessities. So the parents are really going out of their way to make sure that their children are comfortable. So in that case, they don't get the experience of the real world. But while we blame parents so much, sometimes I like to give parents, you know, somehow, because these children, let me give an example of a person or a student who is in secondary school. This is a child, or this is a person who is able to know and identify right and wrong. Even if the parent has not taught them what is right and what is wrong. Any person, any child who is in secondary school should be able to know this is wrong and this is right, even if I was not taught by my parents. Because we have probably, we even have children that don't have parents to guide them, to direct them. But since they have gone through school, they have gone through primary school, and they are in secondary school, the children are supposed to know this is right, this is wrong. They have read books, they have interacted with the society, they have seen news, even news. Sometimes you watch news, you learn something from news, you read the newspaper, you get something from the newspaper, you read storybooks, you get something from the storybook. So really, these children, we cannot totally blame 100% that the unrest in the schools is because of parents' responsibility. These children need to know right and wrong.
They
even
all have a reference point.
They ought to have that, even when they are in that particular situation.
Okay.
But I wanted to bring out something.
Yes. Before you get to bring that out, I see Abok has a rejoinder to that. I don't know if you want to agree with or to disagree with.
A little bit. Jain, this is a thorn in the flesh that we need to actually address very particularly.
Yeah.
Sometimes the way parents have actually been able to bring up the kids are questionable. When it comes to character formation, there are systems and patterns that need to be put in place. For example, you cannot expect someone to behave at their point of behavior if you did not put in place or and trust on that behavioral system when they were at the age to entrust it. There's a proverb that says, samaki mkunje, engali mbichi. What we're saying on here is we have a pattern of people who are not allowed even to wash their clothes, all right? Here is a case whereby a young man has been, their underpants have actually been washed for them, and every other time that they make them dirty, you buy for them a new bunch, all right? You make them take selfie photos with your car. You tell them how, you know, they preserve. They wake up in the morning, they don't brush their teeth. The first thing that they switch on is a TV. And then when this guy go up into high school, you expect now for them to be able to behave. Parents need to be responsible for their children. However rich you are, and I'm speaking to parents out there, your resources are yours. They are not your children. Let them make it. Let them make it. And please, let someone be responsible for their own thing. When a child cannot be able to clean their own room where they're sleeping, that is definitely a recipe for indiscipline. And please, we need to look at it very well. And you know, I've been counseling a lot of single parents for that matter, kid. But what I'm actually bringing out is, whether you're a single parent, adhere onto the rules. Make the rules with your kids and make sure that they do onto it. If someone cannot be able to take responsibility of their personal effect, then that person is actually a recipe for destruction out there.
So in essence, if you are not your child's source of reference for some things in life, they will have a different source of reference.
Definitely.
In regards to how they behave.
Yes.
Do you agree with that? And you can also add on what you wanted to add on earlier on.
Okay. I think he has stated it quite well.
Yes.
But I want us to take some little, you know, we think a bit more about this issue. We have children. We have parents that are straight parents. They have rules, they have counsel, they have religion, they have, you know, they have done basically everything. Actually, if you look at them, you say, this is a good parent.
Yeah.
But then you don't lack one or two children from these families that totally go wayward.
Yeah.
They totally go wayward, and they do things that are contrary to even the values of their parents. Yes. So yes, parents have a responsibility, I agree. But again, let us not remove the responsibility on these children. Because if we remove on this responsibility on these children, if children, every time they make a mistake, we say parent.
Parents.
They make a mistake, you say parent. We are actually removing the responsibility from these children and putting it on the parents. So they will never be responsible. Okay. Every time they do something wrong, I think the society will think my mother did not train me well. My father did not train me well. So-and-so did not train me well. That is what I think we need to address. Okay. Because these children that are in secondary school, as I have said, these are children that are able to know the right. How can they not know burning a dormitory is wrong? How can they not know burning other people's books, burning other people's clothes in that dormitory? And sometimes other people will die in that dormitory. How can they not know that one is wrong? How do they expect this one to be taught by the parent? So let us not completely say that these children, when they make a mistake, it is the parent to blame. Let us teach these children to have a responsibility.
Okay.
To have a responsibility.
Now, as a response to what you've just said, Susan on Twitter is saying parents have a huge role to play in all this unrest that we are seeing, because this is just a manifestation of part of their failure. In essence, these children acting out and burning school is just as a result of them failing in their parenting responsibilities.
That is why the children will continue to burn the schools, because we are removing responsibilities from them.
From their actions.
Yeah, I am agreeing that parents have a role to play.
Okay.
But again, I don't want us to remove completely responsibility from these children, because they are mature. They will hear us talking. They will hear us saying, oh, you've made a mistake. It is your parent to blame. You've made a mistake. It is your parent to blame. Yet these children are above 14 years. They are above 15 years. 15, 16, 17, 18. Those are people who are able to know this is right and this is wrong. Okay. So let us also correct them from that area.
All right.
There is something that is lacking that I wanted to introduce, or to talk about. There is something that is called emotional intelligence.
I think we'll get to that when it comes to solutions as we get to wind the conversation.
Okay.
But let me just bring in the aspect that was actually even on the papers this morning, the fact that it is more boys than girls that are acting out. Looking at the papers this morning, so many boys have failed to even turn back to school. When there was the partial reopening, more boys than girls were absent. Still, even in January, more boys did not report back to school than girls. Some of the reasons that have been given is that some of them dropped out of school to seek employment in the casual labor sector, and consequently wakaonja pesa. And now, they've actually captioned it dripping in wealth. Most of them are in the border business, and others have ventured into other forms of business for those who did not turn up to school. But looking at the wave of unrest, it is happening in more boys' schools than girls. What do you think could be bringing this up? Let me start with you, Abok.
All right, Jen, allow me to get on the extreme. I don't know whether I'll get time to finish on this.
Make it brief.
But I first say that the challenge of the young people are in three aspects: security, significance, and purpose. And this plays a big role in the life of young people, that they want to be secure, their future secure, their present life secure. And how is this secure? Is this secure resource-wise, psychologically, and all these other things? Is their purpose manifesting? What am I going to be? I counseled a young girl who, you know, she was wondering, she was dreaming that she will not give birth. And you know, she was 10 years. So I was asking her, what does giving birth and 10 years got to do? And, you know, she was like, I'm feeling like, you know what, my purpose is to be a parent and, you know, to be a responsible. So a lot of things are actually coming into the minds of these young people.
Yes.
And to bring on that to perspective.
And before you get to give us better perspective, my directors are telling me we need to take a commercial break. We got to pay some bills. But we will be back to continue with this conversation.